Hello, my name is Elisha Hougland, and I will be presenting information regarding coaching diverse athletes. As a coach myself, I have experienced much diversity when it has come to people I teach. There are two main subjects we are going to go over that one must consider when coaching athletes. The first is understanding your athletes, and the second is physical differences. Before we go into the obvious physical differences in our athletes, we first must understand where our athletes are in their transformation between childhood to adulthood. There are 3 stages of adolescence that most athletes fall into. These include early adolescence, middle adolescence, and late adolescence. It is important to understand these 3 stages so you can better understand where your athletes are in life and normally how they think. That way you can better coach them in the future. In early adolescence, we find this stage to range from kids of 11 years of age to 14 years. This is the stage that many kids start their growth spurt and become more awkward and self-conscious about their bodies. They will gradually start to get stronger and improve their skills as an athlete because they have new abilities. They also need more food and sleep because their body is growing. Physical appearance is important to them, and they start to be more independent. They are searching to discover their place in the world and how they fit in. All these factors are so important when understanding how to coach them in this stage of life. Middle adolescence ranges from 15 to 17 years of age, and this stage most physical growth is completed. These teens will be more independent and in deep thought about life choices and the future. They are more likely not to take advice from their parents, and they think more abstractly and are generally self-centered. In late adolescence, you see people that are more secure in who they are. Their ages range from 18 to 21 years of age. They are able to function independently and take advice from others because of this. They set goals based on feelings of personal needs and priorities. Intimate relationships become very important. These athletes are seen mostly on the college level. Now that we know to understand teens, we are now moving to physical differences. These include maturation differences and different abled athletes. When considering maturation differences, we normally look at the size difference. For example, even though kids are the same age, they have different maturation levels. And in many sports, this is a problem, because if you have a 14-year-old boy that is 5'11" and weighs 160 pounds, with a boy that is the same age but is 5'5" and 100 pounds, you will have a real problem with the fairness and potential injuries that may be caused. So if you're a coach, you might want to consider matching players based on their physical maturity. Also, help your athletes that are physically immature understand that their time will come, and the early maturing athletes that they have not gotten worse when their teammates catch up to their growth. Last but not least is considering different abled athletes. These different abled athletes can compete with fewer limbs. For example, Kate Foster on the top is a gymnastics athlete who got cancer and was forced to make a decision to amputate her leg. She is now competing against gymnasts with all limbs because her coach believed in her. In ABC's news article, Kate Foster says, "My coach said something to me that really changed my mindset. She said that she had never coached a one-legged gymnast before, but she will be willing to try if I was." Today, Kate competes with her team, traveling across the country in sanctioned gymnastics competitions. She's the only competitor with a prosthetic leg, and she's held to the same standards as her peers. She is not the only athlete that competes with one less limb. There are runners that have lost their legs and are still running against runners with both their legs. For example, Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius is a runner without any legs that uses aesthetic limbs to run against others. He's also known as the Blade Runner, and you can see him at the bottom. The last example of diverse athletes with different abilities is wheelchair athletes. While I personally work with these athletes on their tennis game, they have some of the most amazing skills I've seen. Even though they normally only verse other wheelchair athletes, there is no denying that these athletes can be put in the same diverse group as any other athlete that I coach, especially in the sport I teach. Some things to consider when coaching athletes with different abilities is making accommodations for those athletes, understanding the different ability of your athlete and what changes need to be made. Know the sport well and how to make modifications for your different abled athletes. Treat your different abled athletes with the same respect as you treat the rest of your athletes, and also ask them questions on how you can make drills or the sport more adaptable for them. To give you an idea of these amazing athletes, here is a news video regarding these diverse athletes.
Ran right past our State Street studio here, both runners and wheelchair athletes.
And of course, that's by far not the only sport that includes wheelchair athletes. In today's Disabilities Report, Eyewitness News anchor Jose Sanders tells us about a wheelchair tennis tournament happening in Hanover Park this weekend.
All this weekend, a group of outstanding athletes have been competing and showing off their amazing skills on the tennis court. But these players have an extra challenge and some might say extra abilities. They're playing tennis in wheelchairs. Paul Moran was injured while he was in college, but take a look at his moves on the court. This grueling sport is wheelchair tennis. The only difference in the game here is that the players in chairs are allowed to hit the ball after it takes an extra bounce, and that makes for a lot of spinning.
You keep the chair moving a lot, so you might see a wheelchair tennis player turn their back to the court to recover. They might spin around where you wouldn't really be spinning so much on the tennis court if you're on your feet.
Exciting and very physically demanding, with the wheels actually taking the place of hips for pivoting. Elisha Hougland teaches the sport.
A lot of upper body, moving that, Also, when you're moving the wheelchair, you got a racket in your hand. So it's extra hard to move the wheelchair while there's a racket in your hand. I've actually gotten a wheelchair myself and tried it out, and it's very, very difficult.
Melissa Kress was so impressed that for 10 years, she tried to get a tournament started. Last year, it finally happened, and the second annual tourney is actually taking place this weekend at Center Court in Hanover Park. She calls it a great spectator sport.
The thing with wheelchair is that once you start watching it, you forget that you're watching people in wheelchairs. It is such a fluid sport. These people that are coming to the tournament, they're professional athletes, and they train, they coach, they teach, and above all, they're athletes. And so when you watch a wheelchair sport, you eventually forget everything about anybody being in a wheelchair and just enjoy the sport.
And you might just find yourself inspired.
Whether you got legs or whether you got legs at work or how many you have, wheelchair tennis and all the wheelchair sports are great opportunities to stay active. You don't have to sit on the couch, because you have a disability. There's lots of things out there to do.
Now, it's not too late to watch these athletes in action. Semifinals and finals of the tournament are taking place today at the Center Court Athletic Club. That's an...
Lastly, here's the resource page where I got my information. Thank you.